I've been in denial for a while, but I've come to the conclusion that the canon parts of Railgun are better than Index. It's unfortunate because Railgun is a spin-off and Index is the main story, but after some analysis, I'm beginning to understand why one's arcs have higher quality than the others. Index has two killer arcs and both of them are in Season 1, the Index arc and the Sisters arc. I'll start with the former. You might begin to see a pattern as I break these arcs down. The Index arc has sympathetic villains. Stiyl and Kaori are two magicians who are forced to erase their friend's memories by attacking her, otherwise she'll die. They are doing something evil in order to accomplish something good. This is the ethical theory called teleology, which can be summarized as the ends justify the means. This puts them in conflict with Touma, who doesn't support their methods and looks for a way to save Index without attacking her. This concept allows the author to play with interesting ideas, like the magicians pretending to be villains, and the plot twist that they're being manipulated. The Sisters arc in Index has a sympathetic ally. Misaka has clones made of her, whose sole purpose is to be killed by Accelerator in battle so that he can rank up. Misaka has a sisterly bond with these clones, and wants to stop the project from continuing. This concept allows the author to create an emotional moment, like Misaka trying to sacrifice her life to end the project. Accelerator is not a sympathetic villain, he's an anomaly that I'll cover later. Now, the arcs in Railgun. The first arc is the level upper arc. Kiyama Harumi is a sympathetic villain with a sad backstory. Kids she cared about went into a coma, so she developed a way to wake them up. Level upper, something that levels up as per abilities. The problem is that level upper puts the innocent people using it into a coma. This is what I call selfish teleology. She's hurting innocent strangers to save the people she cares about. This interesting concept is played with by the author. When people start leveling up, crime goes up. The first half of the arc deals with that. Ryoko was a level 0 and uses the level upper out of insecurity, but it puts her in a coma, making it personal for Misaka. The second canon arc is the Sisters arc, which has the same key components that I mentioned before. Instead here is a sympathetic hero. The third canon arc is the Daihasei festival. The first half is carried by a sympathetic villain in shokuho misaki. She erases the memories of Misaka's friends in order to stop a villain personal to her. Once again, this is selfish teleology. She does something evil for the purpose of doing something good. This concept is played with by the author having a whole mystery surrounding the sisters' disappearance and the erased memories of Misaka's friends. In the second half, Gensei Kihara takes over as the villain, and he isn't special, but not only has Misaki done the heavy lifting up until this point, but his reign as villain brings another interesting concept. Level 6 Misaka, a fascinating follow-up to the Level 6 project. By forcing her to transform into a monster, Misaka becomes an antagonist as well. The fourth and last canon arc in the Railgun anime so far is the Dream Ranker arc. This time, we have a sympathetic ally again, who brings an interesting concept. Kuriba Ryoko's tragic past resulted in two versions of her being made. She wanted to find a solution to her mother's health issues, so she created Indian Poker, a dream sharing card, to achieve this. Similar to Level Upper, the author plays with the concept by focusing the first half on all kinds of interesting adventures revolving around sharing dreams. Then the second half focuses on Ryoko and her doppelganger, who is an antagonist. Like Harumi, Ryoko selfishly causes harm to others with Indian Poker to do good for her mother. Here's the pattern. All of these arcs have an interesting core concept that is explored throughout the arc. Index has memory erasure, Sisters has the clones and the level 6 shift, Level Upper has the titular concept, Daihasei has the memory erasure and level 6 shift, Dream Ranker has Indian Poker and the cyborg doppelganger. But it doesn't stop there. Each of these concepts are connected to a sympathetic hero, ally, or villain. These characters have a tragic backstory that explains their actions in a sympathetic way. Most of these villains are heroes in their own eyes, and are subscribed to a teleological morality. They are doing bad things in the name of good, and that's what makes them the antagonist, because the story and its heroes seem to support the ontology, which is the theory of morality that action shouldn't be judged on the results, but the action alone. Stiyl and Kaori are scaring and hunting Index to keep her alive. Harumi was endangering civilians to save her children. Misaki mind-wiped Misaka's friends to stop an evil scientist. Ryoko endangers civilians to help cure her mom. This ethical dilemma is so engaging because it makes the audience wonder what they would do in that situation. Breaking Bad is a great example. What would you do if you had cancer, but you also had the opportunity to cook meth to leave your family with money? It's an ethical dilemma that gets your mind racing and makes the characters more fleshed out. And when there isn't a sympathetic villain, there's a sympathetic hero or ally. The reason I said Accelerator was an anomaly is because of how entertaining he is in the first arc alone. The interesting concept and sympathetic hero work well, but Accelerator's personality just makes the arc even better. It's weird because usually when Index writes pure evil characters, they aren't interesting. Examples would be Amai Ao, Agnese, Awaki, Oriana, Terra, Karasa, and Fiamma. But Accelerator just has so much charisma and swagger that I enjoy watching him be pure evil. And when you combine that with the creative and epic ability, you get magic. Before I move on to the bad examples, I must clarify that a sympathetic character has to be active. All of these heroes, allies, and villains I mentioned were actively pursuing their goals in the arcs. Deep Blood arc. Is Izzard a sympathetic villain? Yeah. He wanted to save Index from her memory problem by attracting vampires and having them make her immortal. He uses Himegami since she has the ability to attract vampires. This sounds like an interesting start, but the problem is that the arc feels more focused on the Ars Magna side. Izzard brainwashed a cram school to have the students chant the Gregorian chant to power up his magic, Ars Magna. This is the actual focus of the arc rather than the vampire plotline, and it makes the arc weak because it doesn't highlight the interesting parts of Izzard. Nothing revolving around the school is an externalization of the core concept behind Izzard and the vampires. Angel Fall. This is complicated because not only does the anime change the arc, but the original arc is strange. The concept of the arc is Angel Fall, a worldwide spell that switches the elements and eventually brings down an angel to Earth. One of the most prominent villains is Jinsaku, but he's pure evil since he's a psychopathic killer. He also had nothing to do with the core concept. The actual caster of the spell is Toya, Toma's dad. He does this because he believes it'll save his son from misfortune. This is close to the teleological villains because he didn't care about the effect on the rest of the world. But the problem is that he's not a villain in this arc. He's just a regular guy who accidentally casted a spell to help his son. He's barely even the focus of the arc and didn't even know about Angel Fall. Then the antagonist is the Archangel Gabriel, the angel called to Earth, who possessed Sasha. I have to give this arc credit. The way we never know who the villain is, combined with the plot twist, is amazing. Unfortunately, Gabriel is pure evil. He wants to kill the person who brought him down to Earth to return to heaven. The arc uses the concept of Angel Fall in different ways, like having Jinsaku's psycho personality switch with his normal one, and having an angel switch with another character in secret, but the villains are lacking. There isn't a sympathetic villain tied to the core concept. 3 stories. I'll start with Etzali. He's just evil. He had the mission of infiltrating Toma's circle to disrupt it, and also fell in love with Misaka. That's basically it. Etzali's ability to steal appearances is only mildly played with. Then, the level 6 story. Ao is an evil scientist who put a virus in Last Order, so she goes to Accelerator for help. Ao is just evil and there is no interesting concept to play with, unless you count Last Order, which isn't played with very much. Last is Ouma. He fell in love with a cursed girl and decided to save her with one of the grimoires in Index's head. He's sympathetic, but him being a villain felt forced because he could have at least asked Index for help instead of immediately kidnapping her. And then there is no unique concept in this arc. Season 1 ends with the Kazakiri hyoka arc. Similar to previous arcs, the core concept and the villains aren't connected well enough. The closest thing to a core concept is Kazakiri, who is an artificial human made from aimed diffusion fields. It's not that great of a concept in my opinion, but what's worse is how disconnected this is from Sherry Cromwell, the antagonist. She's a sympathetic villain because she had a sad backstory, but in the present, she's just evil. Her actions have no ethical dilemma. She wanted to start a war between the magic and science sides. In the 4 canon anime Railgun arcs, they all use the winning formula, but in Index Season 1, only 2 out of the 6 nail the formula. I'm not going to do Seasons 2 and 3 right now because I feel like I made my points very clear, and if you care enough, you can use my formula to see the problems in those arcs as well. Maybe I'll do them if this video performs well. In conclusion, Railgun has better arcs than Index because it uses Index's winning formula more often. That winning formula is tying together an interesting concept with a sympathetic character, exploring the concept, and putting the sympathetic character in an ethical dilemma if they are villains.